So this evening, I just wanted to do a little bit of show and tell, state of the game, if you will. Hopefully, it's pretty obvious that what I'm showing is very, very early. Lots of stuff is placeholder. Lots of stuff is yet to be figured out. Nothing is final here. What I've been doing is trying to build systems, trying to figure out what I want to do, what I want it to look like. This scene here that I'm showing you, some earlier work that I worked on. This has a climate simulation going on. You can see there's got a day and night cycle. It's going on. The day is quite fast. I did that just so you can see the morning, the afternoon, the evening lighting. You can see here I've been working on some models, just trying to add some color to the scene, some poppies, some other random flowers, some apparently very poorly UV unwrapped ferns, some trees. And this is a pretty large scene. Most of it is not decorated. You can see I'm playing around with some footsteps as well that may or may not make it into the game. You can see a lot of the terrain here is not decorated. I haven't added bits and pieces to it. You can see we've got a full, got a moon setting there. Nice sunrise. All in all, it looks pretty okay. It needs some work and it needs some details, but I'm pretty happy with the general style, the art. The performance is reasonable. I can pull up my stats here and pull in 70 or 80 frames per second. And I think that's a little low. If you actually look at the profiler, I think it's higher than that, closer to 200 frames per second. Some things that I need to work on and figure out is you can see here the occlusion culling. You can see those trees pop in. I guess those are actually running with an LOD. So figuring out the LOD, figuring out the fog so that it looks good and they don't pop in is good. I've also been working on some rocks. I had some issues with some scaling. I think some prefabs got changed. I'm not sure what happened, and all these rocks were spread out all over, and then some scaling occurred and they all got clumped together. So that's what's going on there. So this is kind of the basic idea. You can see there's quite a bit going on here. Lots of little hills. We've got effectively an ocean out here. Come over here. There's a lake. I won't walk all the way around it. Roughly speaking, let's see if I can go in here to scene mode here, or scene view. So if we want to take a look at the terrain. So this is the part we've been exploring down here. If I zoom out, you can see it's really quite a large terrain. That's a sky dome that's showing up there. I can probably toggle that off. Here's the terrain as a whole. We kind of walked in that area. You can see it's really quite large. I think it's roughly 2 or 3 kilometers square. Bounding box square. I'm really liking it. You can see it looks like I've got the wrong texture assigned there for that grass, but I like the general idea. So there you go. Yeah, that's kind of the visual side of the state of the game. So continuing our tour of state of the game, in the second scene, this is my test scene. This is where I'm testing mechanics and building the chunks that are going to go into the game. This is not worried about visuals at all. You can see I got some of the similar trees that I've been working on. I got a chicken wandering around. I got some steam engines, lots of primitives. Got a grid here on the ground. None of this is going to make it into the final game in the state that it's in. This grid here, however, it's a good place to start. This grid represents the plots of land that you'll be able to buy as a player. So you're not going to be able to build anything. You're not going to be able to farm or anything like that until you own some land. So if I go down here to my UI, and again, the UI here is all just placeholder. These are icons that I had from a previous package, previous project. So if I push the $sign, I get this cursor, and it's going to snap to this grid and show me what I can buy. And the colors aren't quite functional right now. You can kind of see they're alternating green and red. They will give you some visual feedback as to what you can buy. But more importantly, the visual actually comes when you purchase. So if I purchase here, my land changes color, and this is land that's owned by me. So when you're in this kind of land purchase mode, you'll be able to toggle this map on. You'll be able to see what you own, what other players own, and such things. Also, part of that, again, very much placeholder, is this little icon over here that shows land info. So if I push this little magnifying glass and click on, where did we go? There we go. I can see that this land is owned by the player. I can see, must be hitting some collider over there. I'm not sure what's going on there. Oh. There we go. Must be hitting some other collider. The land info, you can see that this over here, it's owned by none. And so we were able to get more info. Again, that's very much a placeholder. We'll figure out how to do that and make that look better. But it was just a test to see if it works. And you can kind of see it rotates with the camera. It's a little goofy looking, but it gets the job done. Also, you notice up here at the top right here, I've got a little debug here. This is just the mode that the game's in. I press escape there, it goes back down to nothing. So let's take a look at some of the structures that I have here. This object here, again, just very much a placeholder, along with this very ugly UI. This object here represents a machine that's going to take in some food. You can see the food value slider here. It's going to take in some food and turn it into animal feed. So if I open up my inventory, and I'm using Inventory Pro as my inventory solution, which is why things look the way they do. The skill bar down here, again, placeholder, that's the default one. So if I grab some corn here and drag it into my corn or my animal feed producer, nothing's going to happen. And that's because this machine needs some power. There is a hand crank you can attach to this and you can crank it by hand. But what I really want to show is the process of generating power and transmitting that power. So this machine over here needs some power. And this sphere over here is representing an engine that's going to produce that power. But what we need to do is take that mechanical energy, so this is producing mechanical energy, and turn it into electrical energy. And we're going to do that with a generator. So if I press my little house down here, I'm going to get a set of options here. And very cleverly, I found an icon with a G on it. That's my generator. And so you can see if I get close to that energy engine, it's going to snap in place. Otherwise, it'll just kind of drag around, doesn't fit to anything else. It's going to snap in place. And then over here, so we're going to transmit electrical energy over here. This is going to have a motor that's going to convert it back into mechanical energy for this machine. So this icon here gives me a motor. Again, that one, you can see it snaps into place. Snap it there. And you can see there's a little nub here and a little nub there. And that's just for my purposes, kind of debugging there. And those represent electrical connections. And the last piece we need to add in here to get our system working is a power pole. And you can see, again, as it moves around, the power lines kind of snap into place. So I'm not sure if I like the idea of power lines. It's kind of fun. It's kind of cool. But I'm not sure if it really fits with the theme that's going to work, or the theme that's going to make it to the final build. We'll see, but it works for now. So now this is all connected, but still nothing's happening. I got my corn over here, nothing's happening, and that's because this engine over here needs some fuel. Fuel's going to come in a lot of different forms. Right now in my inventory, I just have coal. A little hard to see there in the tooltip. You can see that there's some energy, there's a carbon dioxide value and a pollution value. The CO2 and the pollution are going to play a role in the production of energy and the climate that your world lives in. So if we drag and drop this into our engine, discovered here I've got a little bit of a bug. It should start producing corn right away. But if I take this corn out, drag it back in, we'll start to produce some corn. And they're physics objects, so they're kind of shooting out of there. They're doing some weird things. You notice over here my coal's getting consumed, and the stat here shows me how much energy I have left in this inventory. So there's my corn, or rather, sorry, my chicken feed. And these are objects that I can pick up. So I can pick one up. Again, the best thing I could come up with a cherry. So if I take this chicken feed over here and drop it, and sometimes it falls to the ground. I haven't quite figured out what's going on there. Let's pick up a couple just in case we do that again. If I drop this over here by my chicken, he takes a little break there between motions. He'll be pecking on the ground, and he'll move over to the feed. So there you go. Now, we did this all with corn, but it can be done with any other kind of food. And we can create some food or grow some food by going into our digging mode here. So if my shovel over here, which is for some reason a prize tag, I can get into a digging mode here. and I can start to dig up some farmland where I'll be able to plant some crops. I'll dig a little bit. And then my seeds here, I got some corn seeds, I got some carrot seeds. So my corn seeds I can plant. And this will get a little progress bar on there and give a little bit more feedback. I can plant my corn, or sorry, my carrots. And these are growing really fast, and then again, just for debug purposes, to see what's going on. So once they've grown, I can come over here and collect my corn. Probably put a little bucket on the character. And we collect some more corn. You can see I got some corn in my inventory. As I do this, you also notice that I'll pick up a few corn seeds. So once you plant, it should kind of resupply your seeds and give you even a little bit more. So just a few seeds should work. You notice I got a little bit different animation for the crops that are down below. It actually reaches down and grabs them, and I've got my carrot, which I guess I decided should be a slice of cake. So if I come back to our consumer here, if I drop in the cake, because it has food value, it will start producing feed as well. Might be a few bugs in there. That's okay. We're out of fuel. So let's take a look at the next mechanic that we have here. So these cubes in a sphere here, these are representing buildings that are waiting to be built. So if I click on them here, I got a test building here. I got some stats. I got lumber, stone, and iron. And this is waiting to have the materials dropped off. Now, so an NPC could be doing this, or the player could be doing this. And so in this case, this building only requires lumber. So the UI is going to be changed to reflect that. So I'm going to drag a little bit of lumber in there. And you'll notice the start build button turns on. I can press that and that goes away. And now that I can't bring that up anymore. But if I go into, nope, that's the wrong one. So my hammer, getting represented by a fork, also cleverly. I can then start to build my building. It goes into the next stage. And I can do this again. And it's going to build up to a final state. So again, that kind of labor could be done by the player, could be done by an NPC. Again, just kind of trying to make it vaguely realistic and get some mechanics in there. So that's our building mechanic. Over here, we've got our trees. And these are going to be cut down with our hand axe. Again, you can see we're kind of in a lumber mode there. So I walk up to my tree, I click on my tree. Sound effects aren't quite wired up for that one quite right. I can chop down my tree. And the tree comes down. Now, next step is this tree's got to get cut up into usable chunks. And once we do that, we can now collect our larger wood chunks. These little twigs, I just haven't got it worked out yet. These will turn into kindling, which will be a fuel source that you can use later. Likewise, these logs that are getting collected here, these are my logs. Those will be a fuel source as well. You can see they have energy there, they have carbon dioxide. They can also be turned into usable lumber by a lumber mill, or something similar that will get implemented here. So I drag in those logs, you can see that they're starting to get used up. The feed's getting produced again. Those are dropping down and such things. So there you go. There's some lumber getting turned directly into energy. The last piece I think I wanted to show, I guess there's two more pieces. Here, this object here, again, very much a placeholder. This is a resource converter, if you will. This is kind of your typical crafting item. And so what this does here, looks, I'm actually out of corn, but you get the idea here. I can turn this into cornmeal. I can take some corn, turn it into cornmeal. And this will just, again, represent some sort of machine that's doing some processing for you. And maybe do it a little less chaotically than this animal feed machine. So that's a converter. And then the last thing is these lovely green boxes here, green cubes. And these are representing mining nodes or mining ore. And so what's going to happen is the player is going to build some land and they can place a mine there. And the way I'm envisioning it now is each part of the land, each square is going to have a different mix of minerals in it. And so what you get out of your mine will depend on where you place it. The mines may or may not be endless sources. I haven't decided quite yet. So there'll be, most of what you get out will just be stone. Maybe there'll be some iron. Maybe there'll be some copper. Maybe some gold. Whatever. There'll be different ores, different things that'll come out of there. And so the way we'll get that is we'll use our pickaxe, and we're going to come over to our mine, and we're going to do a little bit of mining. And once that's done, we get a little chunk of ore that's going to pop out of there. And we can do that again, get another piece of ore, and so on. So there you go. That is essentially the state of the game, more or less. There's a few things I may not have shown. We've got the basic mechanics working. Yeah, there's some bugs. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of visuals that need to get worked on. But we've got the energy loop working. We've got the basic resources working. I'm pretty happy. Long ways from a releasable product. But step by step, we're getting there. Well, I hope that was interesting. Hope you enjoyed that. Let me know in the comments if you did, or if you have questions about the game. Hope to see you next time. Thanks for joining.